Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Third Down Thursdays. My name is MJ, and I'm joined this evening by Coach Bruce. Look, we're going to be short and sweet here, real quick, because I
Yeah.
have no guests. Bruce and I feel like crap, but what we do have for you tonight is an interview with Kevin Fishbain from The Athletic. We recorded last night. We're going to play for you guys here in just a moment at 7:30. Rob Schaefer from NBC Sports, the main Bulls guy out there in Chicago, is going to be joining us to talk about Chicago Bulls, what's going on there,
There's a lot going on there.
NBA, what's going on there, some general NBA action. Maybe he can dissect how to fix the Warriors for me, and we'll do very short fireside chat at the end, and then get the heck out of Dodge. And
Yeah, how you feeling?
How am I feeling?
How you feeling over there, man? Because me personally, I feel like absolute shit right now.
I feel really bad. Well, okay, let me rephrase. I had a really long, terrible day at work. I don't feel terrible. It's just one of those things where when you hear yourself talking like this, it's kind of hard to feel good because I feel like I sat. I feel like I sound. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it.
Like the way you sound is like the way you feel. It's like your manifest destiny type shit.
Yes, pretty much.
I know. I get
so
you.
I'm like, oh, this is just really okay.
No, I get it, man. Like I've been laid up in my downstairs all like for the past like few days. My wife is upstairs. She's been sleeping in bed, like staying up there. I've been trying to stay away from her.
Yeah.
Thankfully, tested negative for COVID, so that's one of those good things because that's still I guess going around. But it's nice to know that there's still real colds that are actually around.
Yes, and I it's funny because and real quick because we got to get to that interview with Kevin.
Yep.
Everybody in Mississippi is complaining because it's cold right now because it's like 50, and I'm out here talking smack because obviously I'm from Chicago, and so everybody was having a heyday today. They're like, "Oh my gosh, MJ got sick because it's cold," and I'm like, "I just don't have a voice." Like, other than that, I feel fine.
Come on.
I just got sick and tired of yelling at y'all so much. Anyway.
Unbelievable. But anyway, before we get started with our normal rants and our normal conversation, we were able to have Kevin Fishbain on last night for a quick recording. I gotta say, it was probably one of our best interviews. He was amazing. Yes. We were very fortunate in meeting him at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Really good dude. Like I said, it was cool that he jumped on with us. And dude, I gotta say, I mean, it was a Jordan-esque performance from two sick individuals. So MJ, if you're ready, man, I'm good to go.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna throw it up there, and we'll see you guys in a few minutes. Enjoy Kevin Fishbain from The Athletic.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are fortunate enough to have The Athletic Chicago Bears writer Kevin Fishbain, a award-winning writer, our second one we've ever had on the show too, MJ. I'm actually pretty impressed by this. So now we have a Packers beat writer, and now we have, thankfully, a Chicago Bears beat writer, Kevin Fishbain, joining us. Kevin, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
Much appreciated, Kevin. Much appreciated.
So, Kevin, just the notice that we give everybody before we start going. I met Bruce. He was my high school baseball coach too many years ago now at this point. And so we bicker like an old married couple, especially because at heart, I'm a Packers fan and he is a Bears fan. So just to warn you on that, honestly, this year I've been more of a Bears fan than a Packers fan. That's a whole different story. The first thing that I think we want to throw out there, Bruce has some numbers on this. I'm just curious. Give me a little bit of your thoughts on Chase Claypool, how he's been fitting into the offense, how that addition has been going, because it was a big splash, supposedly stolen from the Packers. So how's that been looking for Chicago so far?
Yeah, I think the first week you definitely saw what they saw in him, right? He came on the field the third snap of the game, draws that pass interference flag. They got him involved a little bit more. And then the last drive, of course, the pass interference flag that was not thrown. It was a little interesting to see this week. His snaps were a little bit decreased.
19 only.
Yeah, 19 only. The last drive, it looked like Justin Fields was thinking back shoulder, and Claypool was still going down the field. So some communication there. So I think they're still obviously working him in. His only catch that game was just on a touch pass. But you know, you'd almost like, especially the way the team is right now, you'd almost like to see them force it to him, right? Like you'd like to say, hey, and which is almost kind of what he did on that the back shoulder. Somebody brought this up to me earlier today that if you watch that play again, Darnell Mooney gets wide open over the middle of the field, but Fields goes straight to Claypool, and I'm actually okay with that, you know, because again,
I agree.
if that's his first read, and you get a guy like Claypool who's supposed to kind of be the type of guy that's open when he's not open. You got to take those opportunities and get used to it. So I think that same like 35% snap count this week, I think then you're kind of wondering, well, what's going on here? Why is this taking so long? You can maybe get a little jittery, but I think maybe we'll chalk it up to just first two games, new offense, detailed offense, just trying to get to know all the spots he needs to know.
No, that's fair, and especially as a fan, like believe me, I was one of the people that were very upset at the lack of snaps for Claypool this week. But I want to jump into a different area too. A lot of times, like there's been talk about the Chicago Bears offense, about the running game only, and how Justin Fields can't pass the ball. Not for me personally, because he's a playmaker. I like what he's doing. You know, they've averaged, I think, 31 points per game in the past 4 games, and defensively they've allowed 32. So the offensively with Luke Getsy, they were able to make adjustments accordingly to, you know, maximize the ability of the talent that's around them offensively. So defensively, I want to know if you know anything about any adjustments that Alan Williams is going to be making for the defense.
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting question because last week we saw them definitely blitz a lot more than they did the previous week. You know, they didn't really blitz Tua until the second half, fourth quarter. And that was a different game plan. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Told you guys everyone's got that. See, we all got
we're all sick, brother. We're all sick, man.
We're all there. So you saw, and then Jared Goff, you know, then they blitzed a little bit more. They put more pressure on him. It didn't work necessarily. So I do feel like they are a game plan team when it comes to the pressure. It's like, all right, Tua is somebody that they didn't feel like they didn't want to pressure because they were afraid he'd escape and get outside the pocket. That turned out to be kind of the wrong move because they didn't do well in coverage. This week with Mariota, who's been a runner a lot, you know, I wonder if they stay back a little bit and not pressure him as much. What I thought was really interesting was Matt Eberflus was asked about this on Monday, I believe, and he made a comment about how they need more from the linebackers and the safeties when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback, which is essentially him saying our front four isn't good enough.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is a defense, as you guys know, this is a scheme where you're expecting your front four to get home. That's why they don't blitz very much. So
all zone.
You know, I think that they are understanding their limitations on that defensive line. They just don't have enough guys who are good enough to rush the passer consistently. So, like schematically speaking, that's kind of what I'm looking at most. Is and on the thing about defense too is like I'm trying to almost only watch the guys who are going to be here next year, right? And that might be like half the defense.
Yep.
It might just be, you know, is Dominique Robinson going to be a starter next year? Is Travis Gibson going to be on the team next year? I know it sounds a little crazy when you think about it, but they have to go invest in defensive ends.
Yep.
And you look at Justin Jones; he's been the most impactful guy up there, and he's under contract again for next year. Does Nick Morrow, is he going to do enough to earn a new contract? Is Jack Sanborn, was this just a 2-game blip, or is he really going to be the middle linebacker next year? So, you know, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker will all be in their spots. But I'm really curious about that front seven. You know, are there guys like Sanborn's right there? Like, have something in Jack Sanborn so that Ryan Poles doesn't have to waste resources on a middle linebacker. Right. Like that would be the dream for that to happen, for him to kind of come into his own and give them that opportunity. Nick Morrow really play well on the stretch. They don't need to go get a weak side linebacker. You could argue they could upgrade both. So that's kind of the thing I'm watching, because I just wonder how limited Alan Williams is scheme wise by the personnel that he has.
Fair.
Kevin, I'm curious. I don't know how big of a draft guy you are. Obviously, you got to cover the draft when it comes around. Some people are bigger draft nerds than others. It's always been hard for me to get into it before January or so, which I should get better at. But is there any sense whether, because the Bears have so much cap room, how much do you think they should go for it, in a sense of maybe spend the majority of that money versus try and invest more in the draft capital that they have this year, for the first time in a long time, having all of their own picks and things of that nature?
Yeah, it's going to be one of the more interesting off seasons that I've covered, just because the Bears haven't had this much resources in a long time. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but there is a salary floor. Like, they have to spend a certain amount of money.
Right.
So, they can't just kind of sit there and just carry it all over into the following year. I think Miami is an interesting test case. I mean, and Philadelphia too, right? Those are two teams that entered this year with third-year quarterbacks that you could argue were unproven. Go all in on A.J. Brown. We know what Hy Roseman's done with his draft wheeling and dealing. You see where they are now. Miami goes all in. They get Tyreek Hill. They get who's their left tackle that they spent big money on? I always forget.
Oh, from Miami? Ooh.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have our producer. Hold on.
But they decided to kind of put all the resources around Tua.
Armstead.
Ron Armstead from New Orleans. So they went all in to say, like, hey, we're going to give Tua everything that we can, and if he's great, we know we got our guy, and if not, with all these things around him, then we know we have to get a quarterback. And so I could see the Bears doing a similar thing, being like, all right, Fields' third year, we know a lot about him. We don't know yet if we're going to give him one of those massive contracts. So we have all these resources. Let's build. Let's give him more help at receiver, more help in the offensive line. Let's load up this defense. So I do think it's going to be a two-pronged attack. And a story I always tell every offseason is, I think it was the 2016 offseason, January, February, all Bears writers were researching inside linebackers, because it was apparent that Vic Fangio needed inside linebackers for his 3-4 defense. The first year he was here, they just kind of the guys that were here and tried to. I think they tried to move Shea McClellan inside. It just didn't work. So we knew that was priority number one. So I remember going to the Senior Bowl and I'm watching these guys and I'm interviewing them and writing about them. And then March 12th or whatever it is, free agency comes up. What do the Bears do? They signed Danny Trevathan. They signed Jarrell Freeman.
And Trevathan was a great signing.
Great signing. Look, and Jarrell Freeman, before he got hurt,
right,
pretty good too. So and they did still draft Nick Kwiatkowski in the fourth round, but that's always like my reminder, because we'll be sitting here. Bears, as you mentioned, they have so many needs. Like you can go down the list, but free agency is going to obviously dictate what they do in the draft. So that's my long rambling answer to say I do see them being aggressive. I do see them realizing that you can't it's not the baseball. You can't have like a 5-year rebuild. These guys, these owners are impatient, fans are impatient. It's a league where you can do what the Bengals did last year. You can do what the Eagles are doing right now. So I think because they're going to have those resources, because they've seen enough flashes from Justin Fields, that they're going to be able to kind of be aggressive and I hesitate to go for it, but at least really bulk this team up to put themselves in a better position.
So to kind of jump off that point, where do you foresee them actually going with regards to building this team? Do you see them? Do you see polls leaning more towards free agency? The only reason why I'm asking that question is because acquiring Chase Claypool, you're trading a draft capital, and essentially Claypool is your second round pick. aside from the pick they got from the Ravens, I believe still. So do you see more success in polls and the rest of whomever that is part of that draft process being more successful in the draft, or do you see them being more successful in free agency coming up?
It's a good question, because one of the things is we don't really know Ryan Poles, the free
Right.
agent guy, right? He had made the one aggressive move to get Larry Ogunjobi, and then he failed his physical. The rest of the guys are 1 and 2 year minimum, low money prove it deals. Like, he did not sign. I think, like, I want to say Justin Jones at $5 million a year.
Yeah.
Like the highest paid guy. But, so really, so this is total new territory for us covering Ryan Poles in terms of how he's going to handle that. Is he going to, I guess if you look back to what would be a good comparison. All right, 2018 free agency. Mitch Trubisky entering his second year, and they had a ton of money to spend. And they went ahead and they spent on Allen Robinson. They spent on Trey Burton. They spent on Taylor Gabriel. They spent on Cody Parkey. Made him one of the highest paid kickers in football. Excuse me, that did not work out, obviously.
The cough is perfect at that timing, by the way.
Yeah. So, I could see Foles being somebody who is not going to – and I also don't think there's going to be a guy worth the type of, one, like putting everything in one. You also got to factor in, is he going to want to save that money to give Darnell Mooney a new contract, to give Jalen Johnson a new contract, to give Cole Kmet a new contract? Those three guys are all eligible for new deals next year. If Chase Claypool is a great final month, does he get into that category as well? So you have all those things in mind. So I think that free agency it's going to be kind of new territory for us, where he's actually going to have the ability to be a little bit aggressive.
Fair.
Kevin, I'm curious, how much does the prospect of a new stadium play into the Bears' timeline, and whether or not they want to push, be patient? How much, if all, does that play into it? And what have you heard in Chicago about that new stadium? Because I know, at least from the fan perspective, people are pretty excited about it.
Yeah, well, I guess two things there. One is, when it comes to, how long is this thing going to take, and your time. There's one important thing probably when it comes to the franchise's timing, and that's Virginia McCaskey. And, this is going to be an ownership group that I think George McCaskey understood what was going on this offseason. He understood how limited Ryan Poles was. But, this is an ownership group that wants to win, and that is starving for winning. So I think that they're going to be ready to jump back in, whether the stadium's coming in 2026 or 2036. I think they want to win as quickly as they can. There is the stadium. It's interesting. Last week, I always tweet a picture of the empty stadium when I get there. And it was a beautiful, like, picture perfect day on the lake. And there were a few people that said, like, I'm going to miss this view. Yeah. And I do think there's a little bit of, it's going to be a bummer to not have this stadium in Chicago, where you see the skyline, where you're on Lake Michigan.
Agreed.
I totally get that. And I remember doing a survey over the summer, and that was kind of the one thing that people were most nostalgic for, we're going to miss most, was that element of it. But then you remember how much of a pain it is to get to Soldier Field, how terrible the parking situation is, the amenities there. It's just like, we're going to be going to Atlanta this week, and I'm looking forward to my first time at the new Falcon Stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bears ownership's going to walk in there and be like, oh my gosh. Which is the same thing they do every year when they go to Minnesota. It's the same thing that they did. Let's see, where else have they gone this? When they went to Vegas last year.
Oh, beautiful.
LA. Like, every time they're at these stadiums, they're like, wow. Like, and they now get a blank slate to do that in Arlington Heights. And I think fans, if the Bears do it right, which is obviously a big if, like, it's going to be an awesome stadium. It's going to be an awesome place to see games. Hopefully it's going to be a very cool surrounding area. So I do think fans will eventually kind of come around to that, but there is going to be a bit of nostalgia in terms of missing having your team in your city and getting those views from the state. It's going to be really funny when they're in Arlington Heights and NBC comes back from commercial on Sunday Night Football.
It's going to be Chicago.
Yeah, you're gonna have like the skyline and like little the high rises, and then you go back to the stadium. Like, wait a second, that's like 35 minutes away.
You see 53 in a junction 90 right there.
Yeah.
Love it. Kevin Fishbain from The Athletic we have for a little bit longer, Chicago Bears writer. So talking about more stuff on the field, Kevin, there's one thing that obviously we're seeing Justin Fields develop right before our eyes. Super athletic, amazing player. I think he's a real deal. However, you still have people second guessing his ability as a passer. What do you think him and or Getsy can do to kind of quiet some of the question marks? Because he hasn't been very good in the fourth quarter. You actually wrote one of your articles on The Athletic. His stats in the fourth quarter haven't been very strong. So what do you think that Getsy and Fields can do to improve his passing ability?
It's just gonna be more reps and more opportunities and getting used to things with these receivers. Remember, he came into this year where he knew Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, and that's it. Everybody else is brand new. And these guys have been going in and out of the lineup. And even when he's throwing good balls to some of these guys, they haven't gone up and gotten them. So we got to factor that in too. So it's just going to take some time. And I think, they have this kind of style of offense is working right now. So you obviously keep relying on that. But yeah, the key is going to be these obvious passing downs. Can he make the right read, make the right throw, not escape the pocket unless he really needs to. I think those are the things that they're going to be looking for to kind of continue to elevate that part of the game. And then part of that's going to be the no huddle, the 2-minute stuff at the end of games. And, I think maybe they learned from Detroit that they can probably call better plays to put in better spots in those situations. Because, again, it's like, you get to that point where the Detroit knows what's coming. So everyone on Detroit's front line is coming at them. And that's where the Bears offensive line deficiencies stand out. And that's where it stands out that the Bears don't have receivers who can get open quickly. And then Fields is kind of stuck. So you like to see all those things. Like, you just want to be able to see, like more consistent. He can do it. Like, the thing is, he's capable of doing everything you want a quarterback to do. You just want to see it more often, see it more consistently. I think he's done a much better job making his layups, hitting those easy passes. That was a problem earlier in the season. He's making those. So now it's just, when he needs to sit in the pocket and make the read and throw it, can he, if a guy can hear, but I also want to see, and this is where Claypool comes in, can he be a guy that throws players open? Can he be a guy that makes throws that just like, I trust in you, go get it? Can he kind of get his game to that level? Because at some point there's going to be a defense that contains him running.
Yeah, 100%.
It's amazing.
100%.
We haven't seen it, which is amazing. Like, I thought it was hilarious in the first play of the Lions game after he sets an NFL record. He runs for 28 yards. Right, it was hilarious. Like, it's like, what was Detroit doing all week? So, but some point, maybe it's this week. I don't know. Maybe it's the next week. Some team is going to have a good plan to force him to stay in the pocket, and I want to see kind of how he reacts to that as a thrower.
Okay.
Kevin, this is, in my opinion, the most important question we can ask a beat writer. What is the best press box food? What stadium?
I'm glad you asked.
How you've had.
It's one of my favorite questions. You might like to know that Green Bay does a good job. They have a strong spread at Lambeau. Now, I will say it's been a few years since they've had the cheese curds at halftime. I don't know what was going on there. That's a nice touch. I don't think we've had it in a couple of years. Yeah. But they always have the bratwursts out, and they have a nice little they have a good dinner set up there. It's always dinner. We're always there for night game. The Vikings do a great job. They got an omelet bar. They got like an ice cream station.
The Vikings.
They do a good job. LA, last year they had a good taco bar set up. I tell you what though, Jerry Jones.
I mean,
he gets it.
You got ribs or something?
Like, there was just so much. There was just focaccia pizza, and there was a carving station, and there was mac and cheese, and then he's got these giant like towers of candy that you just like you would take your kids to. You hit the lever and just candy comes out, and it's there
That's
all game long.
incredible.
After the game, there's a couple beer taps out. So
Wow.
yeah, Jerry knows how to do it. So those are kind of the ones that come to mind as being some of the better. Pittsburgh's good. Yeah, pretty much every stadium. Soldier Field.
Oh no! Don't do that.
It's good. Now, the Soldier Field. The Bears have a good little breakfast that I like because I like, some places you get there for a noon game and it's like 10:30 in the morning. You don't want to be having
super heavy food.
Heavy food, right?
Yeah. So I kind of like the Bears have like a breakfast and they think they do a good job with it. But yeah, that's it's not their strong suit. Let's put it that way.
That's fair. All right, so Kevin, before we let you go, one last question for you. What's the beer of choice?
My beer of choice.
Like if you're at home and you're like, you know what, I had a long day, like I'm tired, but at the same time, I kind of just want to crack open one. What's the beer? What's the go-to?
I would say, so I like pale ales. I would say like Three Floyd's Gumball Head.
Oh, Gumball, okay.
Yeah, it would probably be in my like rotation, one of my top guys. Fist City, which is a local beer in Chicago.
Fistmas just came out.
Oh, there you go. So I would say, I like the pale ales with maybe a little bit of hint of wheat in them, like those. But I just remember when I was in college going to a bar and seeing the handle for a Gumball Head at the tap and being like, that looks so cool, and it's called Gumball Head. It has to be good.
Oh yeah.
Lo and behold, it was good. And
Love it.
Whether or not I was 21 when I discovered that's not important for the conversation.
Yeah. Hey, well, whatever.
I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, but no, it was yeah. So yeah, if I'm just long day of work and cracking one open to watch. I was gonna say to watch the game, but it's Wednesday. We're probably catching up on Bachelor in Paradise tonight, is my guess.
Oh, there you go.
So it would be Gumball Head. Yeah.
Love it, Kevin. Love it. All right, man. Well, much appreciated. Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining MJ and I on Third Down Thursdays tonight. Hopefully we see you at the Senior Bowl because we'll be going back there. Hopefully, MJ. And much appreciated. Thank you so much for your time. And don't be a stranger. You're more than welcome to jump on here anytime.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Kevin. Boom.
Love it, man. That was just so much fun. And I still don't know how we were able to pull that off.
I have no idea. Because I'm sitting here. I mean, I didn't talk that entire time that I was playing. My voice is still destroyed.
I agree. Real quick before we transition to Rob, we got to get a quick shout out to our sponsors. So Rob, hang in there for one more second, and then we'll get you in here, okay, buddy?
Boom.
Right, it helps if I'm able to find it, right? And boom.
Erie Insurance says here's to the grown-ups who move, mortgage, mow, and still bust a move. But does your home insurance still fit? Erie helps you protect the home you've grown into, all at fair prices that are often less than the other guys. So how do you find the right coverage? Magic. Nope. Local independent agents who get to know you like this.
Your local Erie agent is Building Block Insurance Group. Get a quote today at 704-464-4544.
Erie Insurance.
And don't forget, when you call, mention Jeff and tell him that Third Down Thursdays sent you. And with that, we bring in Chicago Bulls beat writer for NBC Sports Chicago, Rob Schaefer, huge friend of our show. Always appreciated. Rob, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Pretty good, guys. When the hell did you guys get commercials? I'm not used to. I'm not used to getting played in with a full on
right
ad break, but I'll take it. Makes me feel important.
Somehow people are seeing what we're doing and they're giving us opportunities. So let's just hope it keeps going, right?
Love it.
Bruce, I saw the look on Rob's face when we started playing that, and I was like, this man is confused.
He's like, where the hell did this come from?
Hey, I love to see it and stop me from talking before I screw it up. So love to see it though.
No, it was great. Actually, funny thing too, Rob. Before we get we start talking about the amazing Chicago Bulls. One of the things that a buddy of mine actually mentioned, he saw you. And by the way, great job. So on all the time on the airtime you've been getting on NBC Sports Chicago
Yes,
too.
sir. Well done.
But he saw you on there, and he's like, "That guy looks familiar." Oh yeah, I saw him on Third Down Thursdays. I was like, "Wait, you're saying you saw him on our show and not on NBC?" I'm like, "I'm cool with that."
Nice.
But yeah,
that's awesome.
But yeah, man. So, well, first of all, before we jump into the talk, how's everything going with you? How's life? It's been a while.
Good. Just getting in the flow of the season. We're back, obviously in the arena, fans are there. That still feels newsworthy, even though, we're in a, more close to what the world used to be phase of the pandemic. I'm still grateful for that. Been back in the locker room. Access has only gotten better. Awesome. And it's been an interesting start to the season, I would say, to say the least. Started strong. They've hit a little bit of a lull here, but they keep things interesting, whether they're winning or losing, I would say.
Yeah. So to speak to that, they were 1-5 in their last 6, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. What have you seen offensively that they've been doing wrong? Because everything I've seen, it seems like the ball is almost sitting a little bit too much in like Zach's hands, and Io's not, playing the game like they as a facilitator you want to see. What have you been seeing offensively that they can improve on?
Yeah, I think whether they can improve on it is a question, but I think one really glaring weakness of this team that was a weakness last year, especially when Lonzo went down, and just was not addressed well enough in the offseason, is the three-point shooting. They're third from the bottom of the league in three-point attempts per game. They're middle of the pack in percentage, but in this 6-game skid where they're 1-5, they're down kind of in the bottom third of the league, even in three-point percentage. And then what happens is when you have a shot profile like that, that's obviously very mid-range heavy. They get to the rim a lot, but don't finish at the rim particularly well compared to other teams, and don't shoot a lot of threes. What you need is to hurt teams in transition, crash the offensive glass, and just generally win the possession battle. Turn opponents over and don't commit careless turnovers yourself. I think the Bulls did a pretty good job of all of those things. Offensive rebounding aside, they're never going to be an elite offensive rebounding team, just the way that they play. But the turnover thing, I think they were much better at for the first 9-10 games of the season. And in the last 6, they haven't been turning opponents over, and they've been turning the ball over way too much, especially in transition. Which hurts because that's the bread and butter of this team. It's the most efficient kind of offensive play type in basketball is the fast break, and they haven't been capitalizing enough on those opportunities. So that's one thing I'd say. And then, you mentioned the ball sticking. I agree. There's still too much of that kind of isolation heavy play. I do think they've had moments of being better in that area than they were last year because the coaching staff and the players came into this year saying, the ball's not going to stick. We're not going to rely just on Zach and DeMar. We have to develop the entire team if we want to compete with higher level teams and compete in the postseason. So I think they're trying to do that, but that learning curve is taking a little bit longer than I think you'd like. I think that's where you see a lot of the turnovers come from. And they also haven't been a good, clutch team, a good late game team this year, the way that they were last year. I think installing some of the new offensive principles that they are has affected them there too. So some of that stuff is improvable. I think the turnovers and the system stuff, you can work through that over time. It's a veteran team. The shooting thing, I still don't see how that gets better unless they externally address it or unless they get better in transition, offensive rebounding, turning the ball over. And they can just make the gap up by being better defensively. Unfortunately, I'm just not too optimistic about this team's defensive upside without Lonzo, but we'll see what happens.
So, Rob, first of all, I want to apologize. I'm losing my voice. So if it's hard to understand me, I'm trying. I tried not to talk for like 3 hours before the show to make it better. It's not better at all. But I'm just curious. You talked about the lack of optimism with the shooting and the defense. I'm curious about Patrick Williams. I mean, he was somebody that Bulls fans were very excited about. I know we've talked to you about him before, and you had some optimism about him when he was drafted. I know Bruce was very excited. What have you seen from him? And give me some positives on the young guy.
Yeah, so he got off to a slow start. I think the positive is, with the exception of Wednesday's game against New Orleans, he had a 7 to 10 game stretch where he was much more active on the defensive side of the basketball, which I know everyone sees him as maybe Kawhi. Oh, he's going to come in and he has the smooth mid-range game. He's going to be a 20 to 25 point a game scorer. I've never thought that was a part of Patrick Williams' development profile. I think he could be a useful offensive player. I don't see him being a focal point for this Bulls team in the near future. So I just personally have been less fixated on the shot attempts and the scoring numbers. I've been much more focused on his activity level defensively and on the glass rebounding. I think that's been a lot better over the last few games. He's now over a block a game for the season. The caveat, though, is even in that stretch where he's played a little bit better, you're still not seeing a star leap. You're not even really seeing a well above average starter leap. You're kind of just seeing a steady role player. At 21 years old and in the third season, it's still early for him in his developmental curve. But what I've been really saying since the offseason, when people wanted him to come into this year and be most improved player, or make that star leap, was kind of, let's be reasonable in our expectations for the guy. And I think if you can get him to a level where he's putting up 12 and 6, a block, a steal a game, and is just solid positionally, is in the right place, isn't kind of fading in and out of games. He's at least generating deflections. He's an active presence. Because the reason I'm high on him, even if it's not in an all-star capacity, even if I'm just high on him as being kind of a supercharged role guy, is because physically, he's incredible. He's incredible. 6'9", length, athleticism, built like an Adonis. Like, he's everything that you want in that kind of 3-and-D forward. I just would implore Bulls fans to be reasonable, because if we hold him to Kawhi Leonard standards, he will never in his life live up to it. I think he's had some good strides over the last 5 to 7 games. Obviously, the team has gone through a little bit of a rough stretch, so we're still finding that balance of how is he affecting winning basketball, not just kind of individually looking good.
Right.
But I think, defensively, he's had some good moments on guys like Jason Tatum and Brandon Ingram. He's got on the offensive glass a little bit. He's getting, some of those hustle stats, steals and blocks in a way that he hasn't, throughout his career, despite his physical profile. So I like what I've seen from him lately. I just think he has to continue building on it. And this can't be the high point of the season, obviously. Like, this just has to be the foundation for him eventually becoming that 12, 13 points a game, 6, 7 rebounds a game guy. With the offensive firepower the Bulls have, I really think that's all they need from him. But they do need as close as he can get to being kind of a lockdown presence defensively. Just a team built around Zach, DeMar, and Vooch. Like, you need that desperately from your power forward spot.
Agree. You have to consider the fact that he's only 21 still. So he's
exactly.
He's patient. You're asking fans to be patient. That's a very difficult thing, Rob. But
it's just tough because I just think the expectation should have been that 12, 13, and 7 steady steps forward. Now, because of these external expectations that if he's not an all-star this year, he's a bust.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to jump to too far of an extreme with him. I always want people to stay level-headed and stay in the middle of the two extremes, because the truth, I've never found the truth in sports analysis or anything to be on either end of the extremes. It's always somewhere in the middle.
Always. So, speaking, you kind of spoke to this about offensive firepower the Chicago Bulls have in Zach LaVine. Looking at some of his stats, and I know stats don't tell the whole story behind it, but there is a little bit of inconsistencies there in his shooting. So, can we attribute that? And how is his knee? First of all, is it everything been okay with his knee? And then also, is that a part of the reason why that there's been some lack of efficiency in his offensive performance?
Yeah, I think Zach would even tell you that he's not 100% with the knee at this point. Obviously, he goes through surgery in the offseason. The early reports were all overwhelmingly positive. And then the team doesn't want to call it this. The truth is it was a setback after the preseason. He had a little bit of inflammation, discomfort, whatever you want to call it. And ever since he's been on this management plan where it's, first or second night of a back-to-back, we're going to rest you. He obviously missed the season opener. So he's missed, I think, 4 or 5 games this year with that.
Right.
And I also think that's more coming from the team side. I think if it was up to Zach, he'd play every game. That's just the kind of guy he is. But what you're seeing in the games that he is playing, and the Bulls have a month without a back-to-back now, so I think he's going to be playing pretty much every game moving forward, is you could look at it two ways. You could look at it as a guy who's coming off of off-season surgery, didn't play a lot of 5-on-5 in the summer, and he's still trying to find his rhythm. Or you could say, this is a guy, a couple surgeries in that knee. He's got a little bit of a history. Is this a guy that's actually learning how to play basketball in a completely different way? Because maybe he's just never going to have that same elite explosion pop that he used to have. Yeah. I present those as two things that you can interpret because it's only been 15 games. So I don't think there's a definitive answer one way or the other.
Right.
Zach says he's just getting in a rhythm and, sooner rather than later, he's going to be back to his old self. I just think with the knee history and with what he's shown so far, I'm still TBD on that. We'll see how it looks.
Okay.
But you mentioned the inconsistencies, right? 22 points a game, 44% from the field, 38% from three. It hasn't looked great defensively, especially relative to what he was at the beginning of last year. To me, that's fine production. That's not Zach LaVine level production, and obviously it's not Max level production.
Right.
I think he would even say that. That said, the book isn't written on his season. But the number that I'm looking at, and I'm going to pull it up now just so I have it updated from last night. He's such an elite finisher when he's performing at max capacity. He's right now shooting 57% from inside of 3 feet this year. The last 2 years, his 2 All-Star seasons, he was at 69% and 70%. I mean, when he's at his best, even as a guard, he finishes like a big, in the restricted area at the rim in the paint because of, just his explosion. There have been moments where he's had that pop. There have been moments where it looks like he's just not getting the same lift. He's not getting off the ground. He doesn't have that same first step to get by guys. So it's been a little up and down. I think it's as much of a mental adjustment as a physical adjustment for him. Fair. Any injured player will tell you that it takes a while to trust your body again, especially when it's lower body. So I'm looking at this as like a 40 to 50 game sample. Like, let's really see for a big chunk of the season how it progresses for him. But it's something to watch because this is the first year of this 5-year contract. Like, if he is not the same player one way or the other, even if he's still a good player, if he's not 100% of all-star level Zach LaVine, you look at that investment differently and you look at the ceiling of this team differently. So I think it's like maybe the biggest storyline to watch for this team as we move forward.
Ooh, interesting.
So Rob, I'm gonna take it a little bit away from the Bulls. I always love you here talking about the Warriors, just because you're so smart about basketball. And the Warriors are not doing well to start this season either. And really,
can we say that they have a little bit more benefit of the doubt though? I'm not gonna. I'll ring the alarm bells on the Bulls.
I would hope so,
even though they're both 6 and 9.
Right. Even with that benefit of the doubt, they're playing incredibly terrible defense. Like, they're just so bad compared to what you normally see from a Steve Kerr-led Golden State Warriors team. I don't know if you've watched any Warriors basketball at all and had the chance to really look at it. But I mean, my thing is Gary Payton is gone, and I think that's had a huge impact. Is there concern? I know you said give them benefit of the doubt, but how much benefit do they get?
So I actually do watch a fair amount of Warriors. They're probably the team I watch the second most outside of the Bulls, mostly because of the West Coast thing. They're just on when I'm done covering games more often.
Yeah,
makes sense.
And love watching them. I'm a little concerned. It's not alarm bells yet, but here are the reasons I'm concerned. One, you mentioned Gary Payton. I'd also bring up Otto Porter Jr. And screw it, I'd bring up Bielitsa. Like, the vets that they lost off the bench, think about where they were, this time last year, or even like as you get deeper into the finals last year. That Warriors team over time, it's so apparent that not only do you obviously want the best basketball players that you could get on any team, but you need a specific level of IQ to be able to play their free-flowing motion offense, live reads. Like, it's not something that just anybody can slide into play. And I think you're seeing that because they're leaning on their young guys off the bench, and it hasn't gone well. Like, James Wiseman at this point is just not the type of player who can play in that system.
Right. I like the G League.
Exactly. And maybe it'll be the best thing for him, but I mean, to me, that's an indictment of you can't help us right now, and we are in, to me, I get the 2 timelines thing, but if you have Steph Curry, the NBA, like, I don't know, it's a fickle thing and windows close fast. Like, as long as you have a top 10 of all time player, like, go all in on him. So right. The bench is a real concern that I have. I think you have to hope that the young guys develop over time and, can be equipped to play, high level basketball, playoff basketball come the spring. It's a question mark. I don't know what their, just because I don't cover the team, I don't know what their situation is, cap, picks, player personnel, like flexibility wise to make moves. Right. But I'd love to see them add a vet or two off the bench that can, slide in and fit that kind of 3-and-D mold, but also play the Warriors style. Because I really think they miss guys like GP and Otto. Screw it, man. Like Juan Toscano, Anderson, like guys that just know how to fit in, So that's one
glue guys.
Another concern, Clay. I mean, I was watching that Suns game. It's tough to watch, man. Like, I give him the ultimate respect, the ultimate benefit of the doubt. I'm never going to slander him, but he's forcing it right now. Like, he's not playing. He's not playing like you talk about the IQ, the feel game that the Warriors play. Like, he's not on the same page as everybody else. It doesn't seem like he's really trying to force it to get himself going. And I honestly think in the third and early fourth quarter of that Suns game last night, like he kind of shot him out of the game with some of the shots he was taking and looking off teammates. That's a concern. It's probably lower on my list because we just saw him play at a pretty high level at the end of the regular season last year and deep into the playoffs. Hopefully that comes back. But with his history and at his age, like you just never know. But he's a guy that I'll count out. I'll be the last person to count him out. I'll be the last person to jump off the Clay ship.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can figure that out. My last concern, especially as it comes to the defense, and MJ, you probably speak to this better than me just because I don't follow the team as closely. This Draymond thing, like, did this really screw with the, because I'm watching on TV. There's only so much you could tell. The body language is not good with this group, and certainly not what you'd expect from a team that's had the amount of success and continuity that they have. And I really wonder if an incident like that can fracture a locker room or a group of guys so deeply. Like, I look at the way Jordan Poole is struggling. I know that's low hanging fruit, but you can't ignore it.
Right.
And the way that they look so disconnected defensively, like that's Draymond's job. He's the glue that keeps them together defensively. If his voice as a leader loses any weight in that locker room, that's tough, and it's tough to recover from. So I'd qualify that as maybe my biggest concern if it's real. I'd put the bench guys as a real concern, but still too early to probably make a definitive claim on it. Clay, a little bit of a concern, probably lowest on the totem pole, but we'll see how it goes. And I just feel for Steph. Like, it feels like that 2020 that playing season all over again. The dude is just playing at the highest level of his career, and you just got to get him some help.
So it's funny you bring up Draymond because I looked into it the other day. He's having his worst defensive season since like 2013. At least just pure numbers wise. When you look at just his defensive rating, his steals and his blocks, they are as bad as they have been since the Warriors got good, basically. And again, like you said, it is kind of low hanging fruit to look at that incident between him and Jordan Poole. And so whether it's the fact that he's just getting older and to some extent he does purely play off of his athleticism.
I mean, that was wild. I mean, that really was. My jaw was on the floor, and I was like, did I turn on Comedy Central? And
when I saw that video, man, I couldn't believe it.
And there's a difference between guys say stuff and guys have their quarrels in practice and things like that. Like, I wasn't best friends with all of my teammates when Bruce was my coach, right? But like at the end of the day, when we were playing the game, we were playing the game and we were all together to win. But when somebody knocks you out like that,
it goes public. I mean, that's really the last straw. That seems to be the straw that broke the camel's back with how tense the environment got. Again, like, I give this group of guys, I just have so much respect for them and what they've accomplished over the last 8 to 10 years. So they get the benefit of the doubt. Like, I will believe that they have fallen off of the NBA's mountaintop when I see it.
Mhm.
But at the very least, it's got a Last Dance feel to it, doesn't it? Like this has the feeling of kind of the last 2 episodes of the documentary, and things are boiling over a little bit.
Contentious.
Well, because they're spending so much money just to keep those guys together. Like you said, the role players, no disrespect to Anthony Lamb, Ty Jerome, JaMychal Green, but they're just not playing, and maybe they'll get better. I mean, I remember Bielitsa and Otto Porter were not looking great at the beginning of last season. Like you said, it does take time to adjust to that system. But you're not wrong. It does look like the end of an era, maybe.
I mean, screw it, man. Damian Lee was cooking last night. Like,
oh my gosh!
Even this Damian Lee a little bit.
Oh my god,
that makes me so sad to see. That makes me so sad.
That's great. Rob Schaefer for NBC Sports Chicago. We got him for a little bit longer. Rob, one of the things that I'm going to keep it out west, man. The Portland Trail Blazers are quite the shock to me and the NBA community, man. Can you speak to a little bit of how they've been playing? Because Damian Lillard's a stud. I love Damian, but just overall, do you think that he can maintain this play that they've had?
Yeah, I think they've done a good job over there. I respect the obviously I respect Dame sticking it out there, and I respect the front office kind of working with him and saying, we're going to retool this thing, but we're also not going to be too beholden to past quote unquote success. And I say quote unquote because I don't think one conference finals appearance, which I think is the height that they got to, I don't consider that like enduring, like legacy building success. So they said, Dame, like you're the centerpiece, but we're not beholden to CJ McCollum. Like I think that trade has pretty much been a win-win for both sides at this point, because Josh Hart has been pretty good for Portland. Obviously Nance and CJ has been phenomenal in New Orleans. I like the way that they kind of rebalance the roster to have a little bit more of a rugged, defensive-minded presence on the wings with Hart, with Jeremy Grant, Nasir Little. I know he hasn't played as much as he did last year, but love that dude's game. Obviously, I don't think Gary Payton has even played for them yet, but I mean, he's going to be a high impact guy. That's just who he is.
Yep.
I think that's how you maximize the kind of 2 small guards, high scoring guards, but that are defensively challenged backcourt, which is what Dame and Simons are.
Yep.
So in a way, they've kind of remade that Dame CJ team, but I do think they have better fitting role guys around them. Obviously, Jeremy Grant has been great. So, I don't necessarily see them as a deeper than a second round team. It's cool that they're at the top of the West right now. I think they'll stack regular season wins for sure. But, with Golden State struggling, with the Clippers, with Kawhi out, and who knows, what their situation is going to be. Denver is a little, I mean, they've looked great. They've looked bad some games than the other. There's kind of an unknown mystery box nature to them, just with all the guys they have coming back. I like just saying, screw it. We're just going to be the best we could be this year. We're going to put ourselves in the mix. And the NBA is crazy. So, one situation blows up, one injury breaks one way or the other. Maybe we could find ourselves in a conference finals with a puncher's chance. I still think they're that type of team as opposed to like a surefire contender after 14 or 15 games or whatever it is. But there's no denying that they are fun, exciting. And I think the front office restructure that they've done there has had good early results. I think they're doing it in a smart way. I like the way they're evaluating guys. This dude Sharp, I think that was a big swing in the draft. It looks like that's going pretty well so far. So, I think towards the end of the whole Shea tenure in Portland, like that front office was just not looked at as being on the cutting edge. I think they're a little bit closer to that now. So however this season goes, I think that at least bodes well for their future.
They remind me a lot of the Chris Paul Thunder.
That's a solid comp.
Nobody thought they would be good veteran point guard. I know Dame and Chris Paul are very different players, but I think it's very similar. I can't recall some of the role players in OKC off the top of my head, but I know that was.
Well, you got Dort, you got Gallinari on that team,
right?
So there are some parallels. Shea, I guess, was on that Thunder team.
Yeah.
little Shea Simons, little Dort Grant,
Yeah.
line them up.
So,
That's great.
I don't know. They can make some noise.
All right, Rob. Before excuse me. Sorry, I'm fighting a cold too. Before we say goodbye for right now, Thanksgiving's right around the corner. So, what's the favorite go-to Thanksgiving food?
Ooh, I'm a stuffing guy. So I will always
Yes.
fill my plate with that. Gravy, mashed potatoes, kind of like get that little casserole, mix it all together. It's all going to the same place thing going. Dark meat turkey guy.
Nice.
And then, I love some autumnal desserts, a little jello, kind of like, what do they call those things? The jello rings things, pumpkin pie.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday by far. The great thing about being lost in the NBA season is I keep forgetting that it's next week. I will be enjoying it a lot. And yeah, I definitely ingest multiple pounds of stuffing. That's the side that I go back for the most. So
Rob, I knew I liked you, bro. I knew I liked you. That literally, I looked at my wife the other day and I'm like, I'm so excited for stuffing. Like,
there could be there's a joke hidden there.
Shut up, Bruce. Shut up, Bruce. Rob, last question for you. Jack wants to know, how close is the SGA to OKC trade from reaching the Pearson KG to Brooklyn levels of bad?
Clippers made a conference finals. I mean, that bubble collapse was obviously really bad. Let's see how this season plays out, because I was not one of the people who was picking the Clippers to come out of the West before the season even started. Way too many question marks around that team that I think we're getting glossed over. Let's see how this season plays out. I know Kawhi it seems like he's close to being back. And honestly, let's see what the Thunder do with SGA, because they're kind of, hard to predict franchise in terms of they've got this great young player. Are they going to hang on to him? Are they going to build around him? What's going to happen there? So I wouldn't put it on that level. But certainly it would be pretty wild if the Clippers never even made the finals and the Thunder got long-term SGA out of it. I mean, in a crazy way, and all those picks, which laid the foundation for what they're doing now. I mean, if they came out the winners in that trade, that would be quite the upset for the way it was talked about at the time.
Well, SGA is averaging like Curry MVP numbers right now. I mean, I know it's early in the season, but he's 50, 40, 90. He's averaging like 32, 6, and 6. Yep.
And he's probably the best. He's probably the best driver in the league. The driver of the basketball, gets to the line. A good defensive player, like a two-way player. Talk to any Bulls fan. Like, don't take those for granted. Bulls don't have any of those. Like, you need guys that play both ends. Talk to Warriors fans right now about those. So he's phenomenal. I selfishly hope the Thunder don't trade him, because I think he could be the face of an ascending team as soon as next year with the level of blue chip prospects that they have. And I do want to see that team actually turn into something eventually, and not just a theoretical spreadsheet of draft picks.
Bruce, I think he's already better than Luka.
Okay. Whoa. Let's stop that right now.
I just like causing trouble.
No.
Okay. Rob, thank you so much, sir, for coming on. We appreciate you. It's a pleasure as always. We'll get you on again sometime after Christmas, probably. Get a little midway recap. It's always fun having you on.
Yes,
no problem, guys. Anytime.
Appreciate it, Rob. Thank you so much.
Talk to you later, sir. Have a good one.
See you guys.
All right. With that being said, you know what Rob needs when he leaves? Good car insurance, just in case anything happens.
Here's to the grown-ups. Your car is now your office, stage, nursery. Sorry, Erie Insurance offers products that lots of other companies don't. That's a big deal, and it's a good deal, too. And with Erie, you get your own independent agent, not a giant corporate call center or some online robot. You meet with a real person, like this.
Your local Erie agent is Building Block Insurance Group. Get a quote today at 704-464-4544.
Erie Insurance.
Not good. Not good. It's the answer. Every time you play that commercial, I die laughing, or I die coughing, whatever.
A little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Packers are playing right now. They're gonna win and not cover. And the over in this game is going to hit. They already missed an extra point because they're stupid, and they already got tricked by a Ryan Tannehill trick play on 4th and inches.
I didn't see any of that.
So it was actually very smart. So they lined up like they were going to go for the QB sneak, and Tannehill starts like tapping on his guards like he's trying to change a protection. Then he turns around and goes like this to Vrabel, like they were going to have to call a timeout or something, and they direct snapped.
They just snapped it to Henry. Oh my God.
And he dives like a arcing gazelle through the snowstorm in Green Bay.
A big fucking gazelle, though.
Massive. Massive.
Fair.
They got the first down. Stupid piece of crap.
Well, I don't want to hear you upset if the Packers lose. So
yeah, I'd be like,
I'd much rather see the Titans win. But yeah,
I don't have the voice to be upset. No,
I think this is a stay away game for me, buddy. This is a stay away game.
Oh, for betting? Yeah, don't bet.
Yeah,
this is just ridiculous.
That being said, MJ, I don't know about the fireside chat. We're already over, dog. So
I ain't got no fireside with me. I need to go
get ice cream.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get ice cream because if I'm gonna feel like crap, I may as well eat ice cream.
I'm gonna lay down on the couch and feel better.
That's a good idea.
That being said, MJ,
we got one more.
We got one more.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey, MJ.
Watching this game is like waterboarding yourself.
Oh, no. See you next week, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Feel better.